Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I would like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of October 25th, 2023. The City Council meets all requirements of the State of Washington Open Public Meetings Act. Community members are welcome to join either in person, remote, on Zoom, or by calling in. For those who wish to participate in a future meeting on Zoom, you'll find the instructions to register for public comment on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. Please note we do not allow comments on any kind of campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We also do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. Clerk, will you please call the roll this evening?
Mayor Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
Councilmember Fossey.
Here.
Vice President Tui.
Here.
Councilmember Schwab.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
President Stonecipher.
Here. Councilmember Ryan, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Yes, please stand if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab, would you please read the land acknowledgement?
I'd be honored. The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stohoops, people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the October 18th meeting?
Councilmember Ryan moves approval of the minutes from the October 18th meeting. Second.
And clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Aye.
Councilmember Fossey.
Yes.
Vice President Tui.
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes. And good evening, Mayor Franklin.
Good evening, President Stonecipher and Council. I have a few comments this evening. First, October is Hindu American Month, and in honor of our local Hindu American community, I'm issuing a proclamation designating October as Hindu American Awareness and Appreciation Month. And I'd like to thank the organization of HSSS for reaching out and would like to encourage all our residents to learn more about the rich culture and many contributions of our Hindu American community. Next, earlier today, Council Vice President Tui, Councilmember Zarlingo, Councilmember Fossey, Councilmember Vogely, and I had the honor of attending the unveiling ceremony for Officer Dan Rocha Way. I'm really proud that we were able to rename this roadway in his memory, and it will stand as a lasting reminder of his life, his legacy, his sacrifice. And I'd like to again thank Chief Templeman for leading us during this incredibly difficult time and supporting the Rocha family and our team. And I really want to thank the Rocha family as well for continuing to support our department, our team, and keeping his memory alive. Dan is greatly missed and will forever be remembered, and this roadway is going to be a wonderful way for our community to honor him. I'd also like to do a quick update on our PLA ordinance. At the October 11th meeting, I shared with the council that I was in the process of meeting with several groups on the project labor agreement. I met with a few today. And at the conclusion of these meetings, I will be updating Council Vice President Tui and Councilmember Schwab. And then together, the three of us will determine next steps. I have a few more meetings, and then I will meet with the two council members, and I'll keep you posted, but hopefully you'll hear more very soon. And then finally, I want to talk about the escalating fentanyl and methamphetamine crisis that we have here in the city of Everett and our community and across the country. The use of fentanyl and meth are at a crisis level in our city. The challenges related to these drugs and addiction intersect with nearly every other major issue in the city, including street-level crime, misuse of public spaces, graffiti, public drug use, building contamination, gun violence, and more. In addition, the drug crisis continues to have widespread effects on our public safety, economy, and health, and it disproportionately impacts Everett businesses, neighborhoods, and residents, as well as our most vulnerable residents and our service providers. I know I hear from concerned residents and businesses all the time, and I know you as a council also do. And I share their concerns for safety in our city. And that's why I'm creating a new task force, bringing our best and brightest local minds together to come up with short, medium, and long-term recommendations to combat our local drug crisis and its impacts to community safety. The task force will include leading service providers, business leaders, essential government partners at the city, county, and state levels, as well as faith-based community members, people with lived experience, and other subject matter experts. I'll be reaching out to invite key partners to participate in the task force in the coming weeks. I'll be also appointing a council liaison. We won't have electeds serve on the task force. I won't serve on it either. We want to hear from the community, but I will appoint somebody from the council to serve as a liaison and keep the council informed of the work. I'm glad to be working in collaboration and support of Executive Summers and his team, who have been great partners with us. The county focuses on county-wide impacts of this crisis, and they have a multi-agency group that will be doing that. But in Everett, we are specifically concerned about the safety of Everett. And so we're doing that in collaboration with the County MAC group. And I'll also be working with former Mayor Stephenson. He will serve on the task force. And it's very similar to the work that he did about a decade ago on the Community Streets Initiative. So I'll have more to share in the coming weeks. And lastly, I'd like to invite Chief Templeman forward to introduce and welcome 3 new officers.
All right, you guys ready? Let's come forward just a little bit. That's good right there. All right, good evening, Mayor, council members. Dan Templeman with the Police Department, and I'm very honored here tonight to be able to introduce our 3 most recent graduates from the Criminal Justice Training Commission. And before I read a little short bios about each of them, I do want to acknowledge their families that are either watching remotely and supporting their loved one, or who are here today in council chambers, and I had the opportunity to meet with prior to this meeting. As I always say, family support is critical for our new officers and our existing officers as they navigate their law enforcement career. So I'd like to start by introducing Connor Brownette. Connor was born in Sumner, Washington, and raised in Palm Desert, California. After graduating high school, Connor attended Miracosta College for 2 years before moving to Vancouver, Washington. He then attended Washington State University, where he graduated in 2021 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Connor was inspired to pursue a career in law enforcement from a young age when his family faced a crisis and found itself needing the assistance of law enforcement officers. This interaction pushed Connor towards this career field, intending to be that same compassionate and positive force in the lives of other people. After graduating from college, Connor moved to Everett. Before starting with the Everett Police Department, Connor worked for Sound Transit, where he was a transit security officer on the Link Light Rail, and for a brief time, a corporate security specialist for Amazon. Connor chose the Everett Police Department because of our community's and local government's strong support for law enforcement and its positive reputation as a department. The department has a reputation that it treats its employees exceptionally well while providing them with excellent training. Connor graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on October 19th. And moving forward, he is eager to learn as much as he can from his field training officers and become the type of law enforcement officer that can best serve the community of Everett. Thank you, Connor. Next, I'd like to ask James Dahl to step forward. James was born in Guymon, Oklahoma, and moved to Washington at age 7. He graduated from Squalicum High School in Bellingham in 2015. Following high school, James served 4 years active duty in the United States Army, stationed in Fort Lewis and El Paso, Texas. Prior to starting at EPD, James worked full-time driving semi-trucks while also enrolled as a full-time student. James received his Associates of Arts degree in Operations Management and plans to pursue a bachelor's degree in the future. James was drawn to law enforcement for the opportunity it provides to help find solutions in challenging situations. He has developed these skills from life experience in his time in the military and feels that they will serve him and our community well in his new career as a police officer. Everett was a natural choice for James as he appreciates both the abundant recreational options the area provides for his family, as well as the support we receive as a police department from city leadership in the community. James also graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on October 19th, and he's ready to continue his learning here at the department, something he knows will never stop in this profession. He also looks forward to the team camaraderie and collaboration. Thanks, James. All right, Peter. I'd like to introduce Peter Hiaokalani. They saved the most difficult name for my last one. So from here on out, we're just going to call him Peter. Peter was born in Portland, but raised in Tigard, Oregon. Tigard. I got his name right, and I got that wrong. Tigard, Oregon. He graduated from Jesuit High School and enlisted in the Oregon National Guard in 2013. Peter graduated from Oregon State University in 2018 with a bachelor's degree in psychology and was commissioned as an infantry officer through the university's ROTC program. After his initial officer training in the National Guard, Peter worked for Sig Sauer's Optics Division for 2 years as a material handler. He then deployed to Kosovo in 2020 as a platoon leader in support of peacekeeping operations. He is currently a first lieutenant assigned as a battalion plans officer. Law enforcement has always interested Peter, as his father was a police officer in Oregon for 20 years. He also feels it is an extremely important job that few are willing to do, and those who are willing and capable should step up and serve their communities in this capacity. Peter was recruited to the Everett Police Department by his good friend, Officer Connor Rose, who's one of our police officers, who was hired in 2021. In their interactions, Connor always spoke well of the department, and Peter decided a change of scenery to Washington was the right choice. Peter graduated from the academy on October 19th, and he's excited and proud to be here in Everett. He looks forward to learning as much as he can from experienced officers and building himself into the type of officer both his peers and community can respect. And so I present to council Officers Dahl, Brownette, and Peter Hiaokalani for swearing in. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And do I hear a motion to accept Connor Brownette, James Dahl, and Peter Hiaokalani as the newest members of the Everett Police Department?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Vice President Tui.
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Vice President Stonecipher.
Yes. Now the clerk will administer the oath.
All right, if you guys just want to stand kind of like around here real quick. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Peter Hiaokalani,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am either a citizen of the United States
that I am either a citizen of the United States
or a lawful permanent resident,
or a lawful permanent resident,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Everett,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Everett,
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
perform the duties of police officer
perform the duties of police officer
of the city of Everett
of the city of Everett
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
thank you.
Welcome, Everett.
Thank you.
Welcome, Everett.
Welcome.
Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
So again, welcome to our 3 new officers, and I just want to say how fitting that on Chief Templeman's last official day at council as our police chief, that he got to welcome 3 new officers. So thank you, Chief, for doing the work of recruiting these last 3. And thank you very much for your years of service. I'm going to miss your smiling face right there in that corner. With that, I have no further comments this evening.
Thank you. And Chief Templeman, we'll have you come back up to the podium for just a minute, because we are also have a few words of our own to say. We want to thank you very much for many years of service to this community. Appreciate all that you've done for us through good times and bad. And in honor of your retirement, we have made, the City Council is making a donation to Behind the Badge Foundation. We know this is a charity that is near and dear to your heart. The organization provides support to families, agencies, and communities when times of critical need, when law enforcement officials have had something that requires their support. And we know that you are a big supporter of this organization, so we're happy to do that. Thank you so much for serving, leading, and supporting this community for so many years. We're going to miss you, but we know we've got great people that you left behind for us to serve us, including the 3 that we added today. So thank you for that. Behind the Badges left some treats for you, and I'm going to let my council colleagues all say a few words as well. I'm going to go down the line. Councilmember Zarlingo.
All right. I've made a couple of notes here. Certainly, it's hard to recognize the totality of a career of dedicated and effective service, and still to be brief. So I'll just highlight a couple of things that came to my mind. First, to me, is your focus on the community you serve and the team you lead. It's notable that we're showing our appreciation not by something for you, but by a contribution to an organization whose purpose is to honor and support those who sacrificed for us. Second, your recognition of the burden of a job where one constantly encounters people having some of the worst days of their lives. Over a career of any length, this is wearing on the soul. And you've consistently emphasized the importance of support from the officers' families, team members, and our larger community. You've enlightened so many of us in this effort. I really appreciate that. And I could talk a lot about the high quality of the culture you've fostered, the focus on service, courage, transparency, and accountability, and the steadiness of your leadership and your presence in that spot in this chamber. One thing that strikes me about the leadership of a large organization that serves a challenging and unpredictable environment is the sheer amount of work it takes to do the job so well. The hours, sometimes at all hours, and a sustained focus that necessarily shoulders some other things aside. The city and our region have really benefited, and I would be happy to have them continue to benefit, but I deeply respect your choice to say now it's time. Time for new directions in your life, and after that a chance to rest a little, take your breath, and I really look forward to hearing about those new directions. I'd be privileged to. I know the community will continue to be better off because you're part of it and have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Vogely.
I'm not going to say much. I'm going to do what I do best, and that's something completely out of the realm of normal. I'm going to walk over there, and I'm going to give you a hug and take a selfie, and then I'm going to walk back.
Oh, not yet. I know it's on regular TV, but here we are.
Thank you. Councilmember
Yes.
Fosse.
So I got to know you when I was chair of my neighborhood association, and I have to tell you, just the amount of transparency and accessibility and dedication and compassion was clear in all the work that you did. And I know that it was felt by the community, and they felt that they were in very good hands through your leadership. And those are very big shoes to fill. And I just want to say thank you for all of your years of service, all of your years of dedication to the community. I'm not sure if you'll ever fully know the impact that you have had on me and my neighbors, but we felt cared for. So I just want to say thank you and congratulations on having such an exemplary career. Those are going to be very big shoes to fill.
Thank you, Vice President Tui.
Well, it's been such a pleasure working with you for 9 years. It really has. You know, you explain things, you go over things, you're so patient to make sure that we are informed, and it's really appreciate that. You exemplify every trait of a police chief, every one of them. And you lead by example, the highest level. We're so proud that you're part of our team. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
Chief, congratulations. I would say you have many great traits, but probably the toughest one for all of us in leadership is that be a role model. Somebody that just doesn't talk, but someone who does it. And it has such an impact on whether it's youth in our community leaders, staff outside the police department, including the fire department, and internally in your own department. You're leaving a legacy of investment and commitment to your team, whether it's a new person or the support staff you have behind you here right now. So I'm very proud of your accomplishments, and thank you for being a role model for me also.
Councilmember Ryan.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chief Templeman, for your dedicating your career. Why did the crier at the end? Come on, you guys. For dedicating your career to the city of Everett. Your tenure with the Everett Police Department is truly leading by leading by example and emblematic of true public service. It is an inspiration, I agree. I wish you well in your retirement. It's certainly well-earned and well-deserved. And if you're bored any of these upcoming Wednesdays, you know where to find us, and we would love to have you back, and please don't be a stranger. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'll just add my well wishes again. Chief, would you like to say anything?
Well, I think I kind of have
Like
to.
maybe that you're going to stay?
Yeah. Well, you caught me by surprise, so I don't have anything written down to read from. So I'm going to speak from the heart and just say thank you very much for all those comments. You don't know how much your words mean to me, and they're very meaningful. It has been truly an honor for me to serve this community for the last 31 years. It's been, besides my family, the highlight of my life to be able to serve in this capacity. I've always said that when it's time to go, I'll know it's time to go, and that time is now for me. And it's been important for me to make sure that when I do leave, that I leave this job happy, and I leave this job still loving the job and loving the people, which is where I'm at today, which means that it's a bittersweet moment for me because I know it's time, and I still love what I do, and I still love the people that I work with every day. So as I walk away, but I'm excited for the next chapter and that opportunity. So I do want to mention before I wrap up that all of the words that you have shared are very meaningful to me. But the reality is that I don't do this alone, in that I do it with the team that's standing behind me and beside me for all these years. They're amazing, amazing people. And I know that you've all had the opportunity to interact with them at various times under various situations, and you know that as well. And to those of you who mentioned that, the department is in good shape, and for the future, we have leaders that are in positions now and that will step up into new positions, and I know they'll step up and they'll perform well. Is exciting for me, and it's part of why I know that it's time. And so with that, I thank all of you for your support of me over the years and of the police department, and can't stress, and I know I mentioned this in the Safe Communities meeting, how important the role is that all of you play in recruiting and retention for the police department. And you're very influential on the dais up here, in that our new officers research council and research the mayor and research the police chief. It's just what they do. 31 years ago, as I said, I probably didn't know who was on council. I apologize. I learned, but today they do. They do, and they pay attention. So please continue to support public safety as you all have, and support the police department, the men and women that are out here every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, protecting and serving this community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Chief, we would love it if you would come up and run the gauntlet with us for handshakes.
Congratulations. Let them do their. Thank you, and we will move on with our agenda. Angie, do we have anyone signed up for public comment this evening?
Good evening, President Stonecipher. We do, but first we did receive a written comment, and that was from Ryan Weber, and I provided that to council administration and to the clerk to be part of the record. And we have one person online. Jeremy, if you would like to unmute and state your full name, city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes to speak once you see the clock on the screen, so just give me one moment. Okay.
Actually, I was good.
Oh, yep, sorry. You know what? You will be given another 2 minutes on top of that.
It's okay. Jeremy Olson, City of Everett, District 3. Is that everything I'm supposed to tell you? I think so. Tonight, I want to say on the record the observations I've made living in the City of Everett for the last 9.5 years with Chief Dan Templeman in command. I first met the chief at an event. I believe it was 4th of July. We've both aged a lot since then, so I'm not 100% sure about some of the facts. I do recall being impressed with how friendly and easy the chief was to talk with. Over the years, the community has faced many changes. In the last few years, we have seen challenges nobody was ready for. And Chief has always been here, ready to give 110% to serve each and every one in the community. This last week, my son and I were lucky to spend some time with Chief. I told him I've learned more about the city's police department in the last week than I have in all the years I've lived here. Chief has been working hard for the last 9.5 years, building a police force from top to bottom that serves the city on the foundation of honor, integrity, and professionalism. He has built a leadership team that is ready to step up. One of the reasons Chief has been so successful is a strong executive leadership that has worked with him. Please trust and know he has worked hard to ensure the Everett Police Department will succeed after he's gone. This does not mean they will not need help and support from the city's elected leaders. In fact, now more than ever, the department is going to need this support as many will be stepping up into new roles in 2024. Chief, my entire family is sad to see you leave your command. It is also exciting to see the men and women you mentored carry the torch after you are gone. Yes, you will be replaced, but Chief, you are impossible to forget. I can't think of a better way after our conversations than for you to be there for the most recent officers to be sworn in tonight. Congratulations. Enjoy your time. Thank you and Godspeed.
Thank you, Jeremy. And President Stonecipher, that concludes our public comment.
Very good, thank you. We will move on to council comments and liaison reports. Councilmember Zarlingo.
I'll be briefer this time. Happy to swear in the officers, and it was a privilege this morning to attend the dedication of Officer Dan Rocha Way. Happy to see that support. One quick thing, just attended a couple of recent neighborhood meetings, both Pinehurst Beverly Park and Silver Lake Neighborhood Association. The Office of Neighborhoods is an official part of Everett, and it connects our neighborhoods to increase the involvement of our community members from all over the city, a really valuable thing. Both of the neighborhoods I just mentioned are changing leadership, and I'd like to recognize the outgoing and past leadership of those organizations, including Pinehurst Beverly Park's Gary James and Barb Bowen, Silver Lake's Dana Oliver, Bob Lewis, and David Krisman. I'd love to go on at length and list many others who've been in those associations in various positions and describe what they did, but I'll stop there and just encourage all involved and anybody who hears my voice to get involved in your neighborhood associations. In 1991, I think it was, it's how I got started on the trajectory that ended up here, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you and good evening. Let's see, I have a few questions and a few comments. I was able to go to the Animal Shelter Board meeting last night. Yeah, Tuesday. Okay. And that was lively, talking about livestock, and wouldn't you know it, it's right down my street. It's actually a lot of places in my area, but anyway, okay. So there will be some information ordinance stuff coming up soon to council from the park, not the Parks Board, sorry, Animal Shelter. Thank you, Mayor, for bringing forward that task force. And I did hear you say that you're gonna have some people with lived experience. Perfect. And I hope that you're able to find, and I might be able to help you, like currently, maybe not necessarily currently out on the streets and doing all the fentanyl and whatnot, but recently free from drug abuse, because I know they have a lot of ideas. I speak with a lot of them weekly. And so I'm thankful that you're getting that together. I am curious about the Waits Motel. I'm not sure how often we're going to get updates, but I like them every day. And that's not gonna happen, and I don't expect it. So I guess on the condemnation efforts and the relocation efforts, and I got a public comment. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but they're curious, and I will quote, "We're all waiting for one decision or another, and until then, we are in limbo and at the mercy of everyone else without knowing what exactly is going on." So that's from a resident, and I know that we don't know everything, even as the relocation experts. But I just wanted to put that out there and hopefully get some more information. And this person is also worried about a power shutoff, and that's not city stuff, that's PUD. So I don't know. I'm just putting that out there for everybody to understand. There's an opening on the library board for a commissioner, or is that the name of it? Committee person? Library board. So I encourage anybody out there that lives within the city of Everett proper to sign up and be noticed. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. I'm not sure about the truck in the parking lot, but I haven't seen it move in like months, and it's an Everett City vehicle, so I'm hoping we can maybe store it somewhere else, because I know we only all come here together one day a week, sometimes more, but we didn't all have a parking spot in our parking spaces. So that is all. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Fosse.
Thanks. Again, congratulations to our new officers, Connor, James, and Peter from Tigard. And congratulations again to Chief Templeman. You'll be missed. We did have a riveting Safe Community meeting earlier, but I might let some of my other council members talk about that. I was thankful to be able to attend the Officer Dan Roachaway unveiling today. It was a little bit emotional, but it's right near my home, and it was very kind of touching ceremony. And lastly, I want to wish everyone a safe Halloween coming up next week. And if you haven't received your ballots in the mail, you can go to everettwa.gov and check out where it is.
Thank you. Vice President Tui.
Yeah, so we had our Safe Community Committee meeting this evening, and asked the chief Templeman to provide us on his exit a synopsis of where he really views our public safety, some of the main issues, and it was a great presentation. Of course, well prepared, lots of information, and I really recommend council members and anyone out there to watch it if you missed it. But the two most pressing issues for public safety, number one is violent crimes, and number two is the fentanyl, and those that are homeless with fentanyl and mental health issues. And they're seeing those all three together on a lot of individuals. And then he also spent some time talking about the future and some of the ways that that we can help support the department, and some of the things that they'll be looking for the future to ensure that we have enough officers for our community. And it was really a great presentation. I really appreciate that. And that's all I think Councilmember Schwab is going to talk about the other issues, the other things on the agenda. So anyway, it was great. I really recommend people watching that recap.
Thank you, Councilmember Schwab.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the staff. They're all here tonight, the mayor's staff. Thanks for staying late. Hope you got your TV dinners in. Are they going to have TV dinners anymore? Does anyone know what those are? Okay, frozen
We do.
dinners. Okay. Yes, I did appreciate the Safe Communities Committee presentation today. One thing I wanted to add, we did have a short presentation of the city's response to the ADA requirements. And we did get some public comment, of course. The city really has two different approaches. One for the employees themselves, which is fantastic, and there's some things added so employees could respond. And also we got a couple emails from some community leaders about the needs for sidewalks, which we all know about. And I wanted to thank Ryan Sass for working really hard and responding to those. So we have a lot of challenges with our sidewalks and our ADA access. So I want to bring that up. I attended the View Ridge Madison neighborhood meeting, and there certainly seems to be a theme in my district, the neighborhood meetings. Certainly the awareness that I brought up last meeting about the growth potential and how we already have some of our zoning, especially in South Everett, and it's getting some attention of our neighbors. They're concerned, once again, open spaces for our community to access, and green spaces, of course. Also, it seemed that the Claire's Place needs there had brought the conversation up a lot more about some of our homeless facilities and the shelters. There certainly needs to be, or some challenges for us as community leaders to educate our public and let them know there's a difference. Specifically when it comes to residency rules. And so those are very important. Of course, in the 3rd district, we have a couple, one that's already done. And by the way, just information, the Faith Family Village, we have some challenges with our PUD and our power. And so that we do have quite a few of those future residents sleeping in the parking lot in their cars. So just FYI on that. Not sure what we can do for them. Roxanne is from that, the Faith Family Village. She's working on that project. Also, they're getting a lot of questions about the planned women and children's facility that we're looking at building on Glenwood. And it is a piece of property that is 91 acres, and I believe the facility is just going to be one. So I just wanted to make sure. That seems to be a theme that came up. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that process works. So working with the mayor's office and our community just needs education.
May I follow up and just speak to that briefly? So hopefully the task force will help with some of that community education, but there are big differences in the programs that are serving our vulnerable residents. There's a big difference between shelter programs, family shelter programs, and permanent supportive housing programs. And the rules and regulations that regulate those and which types of behaviors are allowed. So just because there's challenges at a particular service organization does not mean that any service organization will have those same challenges, because there's very different population, very different clients, very different rules and regulations that direct those programs. And our hope is that we can educate the community through the task force, but we also obviously hope to find solutions. And the communications team is working with me on coffee chats that we video, and the next couple of sessions are going to be on how the city is working to address the drug crisis and homelessness. And hopefully those series will be educational to help residents understand the differences between and the nuances between these things. So thanks for bringing that up, and we'll continue to work to help our residents understand. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Mayor. A couple more things. I just wanted to bring up in the Safe Communities Committee, we did talk about the red light cameras. And appreciate the traffic engineer, Corey Hart, in his presentation. There seems to be a little bit of delay from when we first approved it, but I think the staff put a lot of good time and hard work into coming up with some more accurate numbers and how the potential effects our residents and those that drive through our cities. So there is pretty much, like I brought up before, most likely it's going to be those that don't call Everett home might be the ones that get something in the mail. So, but more to come on that, and I really appreciate the diligence, although a little delayed, but I understand. Mayor, your staff is very thorough in just about everything they do. So sometimes it's more difficult for a community leader to want something done right away, but in the end, they do great work, and I appreciate it. And then one more thing, I attended the Snohomish County Cities and Towns meeting. This is a regional meeting with Snohomish County leaders, council members, staff, mayors, and we're really working hard on making recommendations to the county council. and to others. There was a couple of presentations on, guess what, housing and comp plans. So, yeah, so it's not just a challenge for our city, but it's a challenge for all the cities. And I'm thankful that our community, that we're ahead of most cities in the progress. So, thanks for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Great, good evening, everybody. Just a reminder to folks listening in that in addition to the library board, boards and commission applications are now open. And to save everybody a Google search, we're currently accepting applications for Animal Shelter Advisory Board, the CHIP Loan Review Committee, Citizens Advisory Board, Cultural Arts Commission, Diversity Advisory Board, Historical Commission, Library Board, Parks Commission, Planning Commission, and Transportation Advisory Committee. So there's a little something for everybody depending on what your interest level is. And it's really important to hear from everybody in the community, especially from historically underrepresented areas on our boards and commissions. So please take a look and sign up today. Tomorrow, I wanted to share an invitation for everybody for an event that's happening at the Everett Civic Auditorium, which is the theater at Everett High School. It's a informational event about the rise and dangers of white supremacy, especially here in Snohomish County. And a renowned author, David Newert, is joining to share more about his book. And there's some panelists that will be joining to talk more about how white supremacy impacts their communities and already marginalized communities. So the event's free, open to the public. Hope everybody can join. Doors are open at 5:30, and the program will start at 6:15 on the dot. So hope you can join. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye. I'm leaving a voicemail or something.
Signing off. Thank you, and thank you for that information about the white supremacy speaker. That sounds interesting, and obviously we've experienced some of that here on our own council. I have no comments or report this evening, and I'll turn to Jennifer. Do we have a administrative update?
Comment? White supremacy being logged, not from the council themselves.
Correct, sorry.
From people.
From the Zoom bomb.
People breaking into
The
the Zoom bombs, yeah,
Yes,
thanks.
yes. For those who weren't here to see it. Thank you for clarifying that.
A quick little item, just speaking of growth, as Councilmember Schwab did, the story map is available for the public at everettwa.gov/2044. And so that you can just kind of scroll up through it and zoom in on your own property or whatever you're interested in and see the various growth alternatives that our planning department are working on. So a good way to get, the really like at the block level detail. So that is live now. And then Councilmember Vogel, I'll follow up on the, it's emergency management truck. It's too big to fit into the garage, and that's why it lives in your parking spots. But I know that it was expected to be a shorter duration, so I'll just reconnect with staff and figure out, maybe it's time to find a plan B. And I've got noted your other questions. But if I missed some, I know I wrote them down, so I'll be back with answers.
Thank you, and we'll turn to our city attorney. Mr. Hall, what do you have for us this evening?
Sure. Three things. First, of course, Chief, thank you. I won't say more than that. There's a lot packed into that. Thank you. Second, we are requesting a 10-minute executive session tonight to discuss a legal matter pursuant to RCW 4231.10(1)(I) with no council action to follow. And third, I was not here last week, but I understand that there may have been a desire to have some more discussion of the procurement of the pallet shelters and associated purchases and how that squares with our procurement policies. So I'd be glad to maybe give a summary of that and answer questions if that's still something you would like to hear. You received an email from Jennifer Gregerson with a real high-level summary, I believe, but first of all, I'll back up and say I think a lot of us, including sometimes myself, have this kind of artificial $50,000 threshold in our mind. Everything over $50,000 goes to council. That number is kind of like Bigfoot. We think about it, but it doesn't really exist except with a couple of very limited exceptions, PSAs that aren't procured by the procurement division through competitive solicitation. Over $50,000 come to council. If they are procured through competitive solicitation, the threshold's $250, and then grant applications over $50,000 come to council. But other than that, there are a lot of types of contracts that don't come to council that are over $50,000, and you know that because they're identified in the monthly report that finance provides to you. There are just a lot. What does come to council is determined by the procurement policies that were adopted by ordinance by you in 2020. And I think there was probably a briefing then, but if there's a desire for a refresher on that, I think Susie or Teresa from procurement, who's on vacation this week, unfortunately, can give a briefing in the future to kind of remind us all what the procurement policies say about when, what contracts come to council. But with regard to this particular contract, our procurement policies, specifically 9.6.3, and I think you were, the declaration that we provided to you actually had a typo in it. It said 964. It should have said 963. I think because it was an emergency, we didn't do as much proofreading as we might ordinarily do. But 963 provides that in an emergency, the mayor can approve a contract when there isn't sufficient time to go to council. An emergency is defined by state statute. In fact, our procurement policy is consistent with and implements RCW 3904-280, I believe is the site that allows us to let contracts in emergencies like this. Emergencies essentially are defined as a situation where there isn't time to go through the normal competitive bid process, and that it is necessary to act quickly to preserve property or safety of human lives, which is what we had here. We had to get people moved out of Claire's place quickly to get them out of contaminated rooms and into safe housing. The policy requires that within 2 weeks of that action, council be notified, which I believe you received notification the other day, and then I followed up with the actual declaration late last night. Hopefully you saw that. So that is the authority under state law and city ordinance procurement policy that this occurred under. I'd be glad to answer any specific questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Hall? Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you for all of that. That wasn't a question, was it?
No, but I always like thank yous.
I'm just curious on the declaration of emergency, I'm wondering if this is the first one, just because there's not a date when signed, but there is an emergency date, and I'm just curious how that works for dates. I'm glad we did it, but the more we do things, the more I get to find typos and bring them up so that they're better.
When you say the first one, you mean the first declaration of this sort? We have about 4 or 5 a year, typically through Public Works, I think once in a while through the Facilities Department, and they are all listed on the city's website.
Where? Do you have to have an account?
I don't believe so.
I
No.
know you're not the person to ask
No, I'm
that,
definitely
but-
not the person to answer that, but they are on the city's website. I can get that to you via email.
Because there's the declaration of emergency by the mayor, but then there's also a declaration of emergency by department director of,
Yes.
or designee.
So the way the procedure works is
then
if there is
council.
time for the mayor to declare an emergency, then the mayor declares one. Well, first of all, if there's time for council,
Right.
then it goes to council, which there often isn't. You know, if we have a sewage main break at Woods Creek like we did a few years ago, pumping 100 gallons of sewage into the creek every hour, there isn't time to go to council. There's probably not time to go to the mayor, and so that goes to the department director.
Right.
If there's time to go to the mayor, it goes to the mayor. If there's not time to go to the mayor, then the department head can sign the declaration. And in both of those cases, the mayor and the department head, you have to be notified within 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. I've got more. I'll ask offline. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Fosse, then Councilmember Ryan.
It sounds like the last time there was a briefing on the procurement policy that was prior to the majority of this body being on this council. If that is an option that we can get a briefing on, a presentation, I would be very much interested.
The ordinance was in 2020, so that would have been prior to some of you being on the council.
Most of us.
Susie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we plan, you can come up, I think we plan on bringing some changes to the procurement policy to this council later this year, and so we had anticipated the briefing anyway, but is that correct, Susie?
Yes, we do plan to bring the policy back to implement some modernization in it. I mean, even since 2020, there are things that have changed. One of them being extremely high inflation that has really made some of our thresholds a little obsolete. And so we're doing some research on that and are going to bring back recommended changes on some of those. And there's a couple of other items in there that need an update. So we could do a full briefing at that time on the entire policy as well as the changes that we're going to be recommending.
That sounds great, and perhaps after the first of the year, there may be new council members seated, so maybe we could wait till January when I won't be here.
Oh, man, you'll miss it.
I've heard it a few times. Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thanks. I think in line with the updates and modernization, I took issue with the part that says that no later than 2 weeks to notify council that there has been a declaration of emergency. That sounds, a declaration of emergency is a very serious matter. And then to have it be asked about last week, and then 6 days later, we were notified that 7 days prior, 8 days, 10 days prior, there was a declaration of emergency, felt, it didn't, I would like to see that number reduced to 72 hours, 48 hours. Just, it seems more reasonable that council should be notified that there's an emergency in our city, and there's going to be different procedures happening as a result of that. So the late notification was something I took issue with. So I don't know if it's a possibility to include in the modernization, especially with the speed of information these days, that it's possible just to send an email to council letting us know that there's an emergency in our city or in our district.
Thank you. We'll certainly take a look at that as we're moving that thing forward.
And I will also share that this is not something that council was surprised by, because we did have the opportunity to discuss what was happening related to this emergency in executive session.
Councilmember Vogely.
And though we were not surprised by what was happening, we were very surprised by purchasing. And there are many, many places in the city of Everett that people smoke fentanyl inside that we're probably going to be hearing about. And if we have these emergencies every month, there will be a problem.
Thank you. And that's all you have?
That's all I have, if there are no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move to our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the 10 consent items?
So moved?
Seconded.
Thank you. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes?
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
President Stonecipher?
Yes, and we now have 2 proposed action items that are second readings. They've already been read into the record, so I won't duplicate that. Do any council members have questions or comments on items 11 or 12? Seeing none, we will move on to our action agenda. Item 13, Council Bill 2309-45, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Walter E. Hall Community Amenities, Fund 354, Program 092, to accumulate all costs for the project. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on item 13? Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Got distracted. Yes?
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
President Stonecipher?
Yes. Item 14, Council Bill 2309-46, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance closing a special improvement project entitled Forterra Restoration Plan. Fund 354, Program 074 is established by ordinance number 3842-21. Do I hear a motion?
I worked with those people a bunch. I'll take pride in moving that one.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on item 14? Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
President Stonecipher?
Yes. Item 15, Council Bill 2309-47, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance closing a special improvement project entitled Terra Restoration Plan, Fund 354, Program 083, is established by ordinance number 3925-22. I have a motion.
moved.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Any questions or comments on item 15? Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
President Stonecipher?
Yes. Item 16, Council Bill 2309-48, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance closing the special construction fund entitled Everett Main Library HVAC Replacement Project. Fund 342, Program 034 is established by ordinance number 3875-22.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on item 16? Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
President Stonecipher?
Yes. Item 17, Council Bill 2310-49, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Merrill and Ring Creek Bridge Replacement, Fund 303, Program 130.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Motion and a second for item 17. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Vogely.
I can't right now find online where the agenda is, so this is flying off the cuff. This is like the $6 million, remind me if I'm correct. Is this the $6 million, Jiminy Crickets? Thank you, for the design phase. Okay, so I just want to be sure, because I talk about the PLA all the time, that if it's a $6 million design, I imagine it's going to be much more than that when it actually gets built, and so therefore PLA.
Yeah. This project is one of 3 bridge projects along Mukilteo Boulevard that all are public safety related projects to reduce isolation in the event of major earthquake. This is, one has been complete at Maple Heights. Edgewater will start next year, and this is the 3rd and final of those 3. This project is anticipated to be out for RFQ for consultant selection sometime next year. We don't anticipate construction to start probably until about 2027. But part of the design that this Plans and Systems Ordinance funds will certainly include the evaluation of a PLA for this project. Based on the schedule, I anticipate we will have already negotiated or done one by then anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
President Stonecipher?
Yes. Next, we have our briefing agenda. These items come before the City Council, serving as a council committee of the whole, and are likely to be scheduled at a future meeting. Item 18 is Council Bill 2310-52, first reading. Adopt an ordinance levying the EMS property taxes for the City of Everett for fiscal year commencing January 1, 2024 on all taxable property, both real and personal, subject to taxation thereon. This is a public hearing, and both public hearing and third and final reading will be on November 8th. Good evening, Susie Haugen from Finance.
Good evening. I would also like to point out that we will be briefing both property tax
Okay.
ordinances.
Let me read item 19.
In one
Okay, I will read,
presentation.
let me read item 19 as well, so we can talk about both of them. Item 19 is Council Bill 2310-53, first reading. Adopt an ordinance levying the regular property for the City of Everett for fiscal year January 1, 2024, on all taxable property, both real and personal, subject to taxation thereon. Again, public hearing and third and final reading will be on November 8th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before we dive into the property tax ordinance, we want to briefly explain where we're at with the budget development timeline. On October 13th, we distributed the proposed budget books to council, administration, and the clerk's office. An electronic version is also available on our website. The public can find it through everettwa.gov/budget. Tonight marks the first reading of the annual property tax ordinance, with the third and final reading scheduled for November 8th, as President Stonecipher mentioned. Budget hearings will run concurrently with the 2024 original budget ordinance, and those are scheduled for November 15th, 29th, and will finish up on December 6th. Now on to the property tax briefing. Tonight we'll begin with the 2023 property tax distribution by taxing district. We'll go over historical data on new construction and refund levies, as well as a sample tax calculation for an average valued home in Everett. Next, we'll look at how the purchasing power of property tax has declined over time as a result of the 1% limit on growth. And lastly, we'll finish up on the presentation with the change in property taxes share of total general government revenues. I'll turn it over to Susie.
Thank you. So I would like to start, as I usually do, with the reminder that when Everett property owners are paying property taxes, all of that money does not come to the city. In fact, Everett really only receives a minor portion. This chart shows the distribution of property taxes among the individual taxing authorities in order of magnitude from bottom to top. For every dollar spent by our taxpayers, about 2 cents goes to the port and 2 cents goes to the Regional Transit Authority, or RTA. EMS receives 5 cents, the county gets about 6 cents, and Everett's regular levy, which is used to deliver core services like our police and fire and parks and library, gets about 18 cents. The largest distribution by far goes to support our schools, which accounts for 67 cents, or about 2/3 of every property tax dollar paid in Everett. For 2024 taxes, this ordinance includes the 1% allowed by state law, plus new construction, and a very small refund levy. We do not have any annexations this year. On the next couple of slides, I'll go over some additional information on the history of new construction as well as refund levies.
Sorry, can I ask a question really quick?
Of course.
It was about the dollar and schools, and I'm just curious, is it Mukilteo and Everett? Is it in general that schools get that much? Because we have 2 school districts, so I'm just so curious.
No, that's quite all right. It's a very good question. And actually, this is the taxing code area that the county assigns as our sample in their annual report, but it is very true that we have 2 school districts in the city of Everett, and that would be the Mukilteo and Everett School District. This happens to be the Everett School District.
Thank you so much, and also Jeff back there, we might need to get some tinniness off of the mic.
Maybe if I push it a little further away. Okay. So moving on to our new construction history, this chart shows the value of new construction that was added to the city's assessed value between 2009 and 2024. As you can see, it varies from year to year based on the level of activity. And of course, there is a time lag between when permits are issued, construction is underway, and when the value of that construction actually gets added to our tax rolls. Construction activity overall was very robust in 2016 and 2017, due mainly to the composite wing facility and expansion of the 777X at Boeing, which together increased factory space by about 25%. We're also seeing record amount of new construction added to our tax rolls for 2024. And in this case, the activity is more widespread throughout the community and represents a variety of residential, commercial, and mixed-use projects. Although there is a significant amount of variability in construction, as you can see from this chart, we do incorporate estimates in our 6-year general government forecast based on information we receive from planning and permit services. So this next chart shows the history of refund levies going back to 2009. Refund levies do not represent increases in property tax revenue. They are restorations of levy amounts the city was shorted in prior years due to refunds and exemptions that were submitted after the levy was finalized by the assessor. As you can see, there's no predictable trend that can be associated with refund levies. We've had years with no levy at all and years with refund levy at all, and we've had other years with refund levies greater than $400,000. And for that reason, we do not incorporate assumptions for future refund levies in the 6-year forecast. So now we'll take a look at what this means for the owner of an average residential property in Everett. And keep in mind that this information on this slide is just one example, and changes for individual properties will likely vary from these results. We start at the top of the first column with the average assessed value of residential property in Everett using numbers provided in the Snohomish County Assessor's 2023 annual report. Although you see much larger numbers for Everett's median value on real estate websites, I'm using the assessor's report for this purpose because they relate directly to property tax assessments. The average residential value for 2023 taxes, according to the report, is $551,000. And if we apply the city's average assessed value increase for 2024 taxes, including the value of new construction, which is 0.54%, the value of property grows from $551 in 2023 to just under $554,000 sorry, for 2024. The next section of this table looks at the change in the city's regular and EMS levy rates. For the first time since the Great Recession, the city's change in overall assessed value did not exceed the 1% increase in our levy. The result is that the city's regular and EMS levy rates are estimated to increase from $1.88 to $1.89, or a total of 1 cent per $1,000 of assessed value for 2024 taxes. Looking at the bottom section of this table, you can see that the net result is a total annual increase of $10.36, or 1% for 2024. I-747 and the 1% limit on property tax has had a profound effect on the city's ability to fund core services. I-747 was approved by voters in 2001, and this initiative was initially invalidated by the Washington Supreme Court, but ultimately enacted by the state legislature. I-747 limits the growth on property tax to 1% per year, plus amounts available from new construction, annexations, changes in state assessed properties, and refund levies. The 1% limit is the primary cause of the city's structural deficit, as 1% does not keep pace with the cost of providing core services to this community. The funding gap has been even wider in the last couple of years due to the high rate of inflation we have been experiencing. As we've often discussed, that 1% limit places significant challenges on the city's ability to keep pace with the rising cost of public services. This chart illustrates the diverging paths of the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, and the 1% limit. beginning in 2001 when the 1% limit was enacted and extending out to 2023. Although CPI is not a perfect measure of inflation or the external forces that drive growth in the cost of providing public services, it is relevant to our labor contracts and many of our other contracts with external suppliers. Industry-specific areas that significantly exceed CPI include construction costs for maintaining the city's infrastructure, healthcare, and the cost of technology. If we start with $1 in 2001 as the base year, and then we deflate that dollar by the difference between CPI and the 1% growth limit, by 2023, the value of that dollar in terms of how much we can buy with it declines to only 57 cents. And the last chart I have for you tonight also relates to the 1% limit on property tax growth and illustrates an important point that I believe Councilmember Schwab made recently about property tax's share of total general government revenue and how that has changed over time. This chart tracks the percent share of property tax in comparison to B&O and sales tax. Beginning in the year 2000, property tax represented 31% of the general government's resources, and B&O tax and sales tax combined was 38%. Over time, you can see that property tax's share followed a fairly steady path of decline to 27% by 2022, while B&O and sales tax rose and fell with economic cycles, ending at 37% in 2023. This is important because property tax is the most stable and predictable source of funding our core services. As property tax's share of total revenue declines, the city is forced to rely on other more volatile funding sources like sales tax and B&O tax, which are much more sensitive to economic cycles and tend to fall short during difficult times, which coincidentally is also the times when people need services the most. And I believe I have a question.
Thank you. I'm hoping, I know that you're a math expert, but I don't know that you can figure this out right now, and I think lots of people have talked about it. Anyhow, with the property tax cap at 1%, if we essentially had more houses being built that more people had, that would give us more 1%, right? And make less property values, but more money for property taxes. I know this might not be making sense, but is that a way that would increase housing stock, right? By just having more home ownership, more 2, 3, 4, multi-family stuff to bring forward more money that can be taxed and more people housed. Does that kind of make sense?
Well, I think that there are a couple of points that you've raised. And the first is when we have new construction, for example, a new housing development, the value of that new construction will be then added to our assessed value and will add to our levy amount for the first year by whatever the value is based on the last year's levy rate. After the first year, the value of that new construction will again only grow at 1%. And the problem is that the cost of providing services, as you know, grows at a rate much greater than 1%. And we know that even by what we're faced with in our personal lives about the effect of inflation. The other important point about that is that as our population grows, so does demand for services. So with that population that comes in, we also have to look at the cost of additional resources for service delivery. And that would be, throughout the city, whether it's public safety or parks or library or streets, or it just goes on and on. So you have both of those forces at work. So
Thank you. That was conversational, and I do appreciate it.
Sure.
Councilmember Ryan.
Thanks. Going back a couple of slides, I mean, you don't have to go back, but I was curious if there's any neighboring jurisdictions that have already gone to their voters to do a levy lid lift, because when I talk to neighboring jurisdictions, I mean, of course, everybody is strapped and they need money, but I don't see anybody in the same pickle that we are. So I was curious if neighboring cities, or even not even neighboring cities, other cities in Washington have already gone to the voters, and if you can think of any times that's happened.
Yes, as a matter of fact, MRSC has a wonderful database that you can search and look at other ballot measures for all over Washington State that have been put forth since, I believe it's 2011 or 2012. And they've been put forth for a variety of reasons, not just levy lid lifts. There are a variety of reasons in there. So, but you can, there's great information on there. Also, whether or not the ballot measure was successful is also part of that. And in many cases, how much money it raised, you know, if it wasn't a voted bond issue or something like that. So I can certainly provide some summaries to council on that information if there's an interest.
Just a link to the page would be great.
Absolutely.
And I'll just add to that when we did a bunch of research about how the city of Everett was different from other cities, we noticed that we're in worse shape than a lot of other cities too. What we learned was that most other cities had also changed the services that they were providing. So maybe they had set up a municipal parks authority that was taking on a lot of the parks service delivery, or regional fire authorities taking on the fire service delivery. You know, so we have looked, of course, at some of those options, but it's like a combination of, and those are additional taxing authorities. So at the end of the day, it's really about more taxes to taxpayers to provide more services. But other communities have gone a lot further than we have in that, and so I think we need to continue on that pathway that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Mayor Franklin.
Council actually commissioned the Burke study, and this was
Yes.
just like 4 years ago, so we can make that available to you, Councilmember Ryan, and it did a comparison, and what really stood out is that Everett is a full service city. We are the only city that I'm aware of that has a library, a fire department, an animal shelter, a parks department, all the services. Transit, we've got it all. And most cities divested themselves of some of those services. They merged with the Snow Isle libraries, they merged with regional fire authorities, they don't run a transit agency, they don't have the animal shelter, they don't have parks and recreation, and that allows them to function and put the vast majority of their funding towards streets and public safety. We have all these services. We're also the county seat. We're the largest city north of Seattle, and we have the lowest income in the county outside of Darrington. And so there's a lot of reasons why we are in a different financial situation than some of the suburban communities around us that are not urban cities. But the Burke study is actually really helpful, and we'll be sure to follow up and give council a link to that.
Thank you. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Maybe another bit of context. I'm thinking about a discussion with some folks from city staff years ago as a neighborhood, and I believe one other angle to look at this was that nicer single-family housing brings in tax revenue that was sort of commensurate with the cost of providing services. Multifamily housing was often, because they're less value per person, per occupant, we're not bringing in as much. And the businesses, successful businesses, B&O taxes and sales taxes were a net gain. So that's another element on this. The balance is really quite complicated, but in terms of attractiveness for Everett and bringing in tax revenue beyond the cost of providing services, it certainly seems that, at least as it was then, the successful businesses we have are definitely pulling their weight and contributing to us all.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Back to you, Susie and Heidi.
Okay, well, I believe that concludes the information we've prepared for tonight. When we have third and final reading, we will want to make sure that's a public hearing as well.
Yes.
And I believe, unless there's any other questions, that is all we have.
Very good, thank you. And thank you for being here. We will see you on the 8th. Our next briefing item is item 20, Council Bill 2310-54. First reading, adopt an ordinance establishing special system development fees for connection to the city of Everett. It's water, sewer, and stormwater systems for 2024 through 2027, amending EMC 14.08.135. Public hearing and third and final reading on this item will be on November 8th. And good evening, Ryan Sass, Public Works Director.
Good evening. So our system development fee system is a way of having development pay for part of the share of the burden of growth so that that burden doesn't fall solely on our ratepayers. It's a pleasure for me tonight to introduce a couple of members of our Finance and Support Services Division. And we have Sean Bridge, our Finance and Support Services Manager, and Jamie Lee Graves, our Budget Manager, and they are prepared to give you a briefing.
Thank you. Welcome, Sean. You haven't been to council for a while. Welcome back.
That only lasted for so long. Good evening, Council and Mayor Franklin. My name is Jamie Lee Graves, and this is Sean Bridge, and we're here from the Finance Division of Public Works, and we're here to provide a briefing regarding the proposed ordinance establishing system development fees for connection to the city. The purpose of system development fees is to provide cost-based fees for new development or for existing customers adding capacity. These are one-time fees paid at permit issuance, mostly by developers. By establishing cost-based system development fees, we ensure that growth pays for growth by having new customers pay their equitable share of the infrastructure we already have in place. The lack of these fees ends up putting the entire cost of growth-related capacity expansion on existing ratepayers. The last study performed by our consultant, HDR Engineering, was done in 2018, and it established fees from 2019 to now. This most recent study, also completed by our consultant, HDR Engineering, will establish rates that take effect on January 1st, 2024 to end of year 2027. These fees are adjusted every 4 to 5 years to reflect changes in construction costs, as well as any updates to the comprehensive plans or if any significant infrastructure projects have been completed. So this slide provides an overview of the methodology and criteria used to establish these fees. For the development and calculation of the city's fees, the combined approach was used since we have available capacity in our existing system, but also need for future expansion. The fees are based on water meter size, and the process for calculating the base rate is driven by the below financial inputs, with a capital improvement plan, CIP, being one of the main drivers. So the proposed ordinance states that there will be an initial decrease of 11.5% in 2024, with annual increases of approximately 5.1 to 5.2% for the following 3 years. During the 2018 System Development Fee Study, the 10-year CIP totaled $221 million. This was comprised of specifically capacity and expansion projects spanning water, sewer, surface water, and this had set the rates for the following years. We embarked on these projects with the goal of completion and had not factored in the unexpected disruption caused by a global pandemic, which slowed our progress. Concurrent with the challenges posed by COVID, we also had to shift our focus towards regulatory-driven projects, and our portfolio management approach enabled us to efficiently allocate resources and adapt to these changing times. An example of this includes the sewer CIP. When we did the study in 2018, we originally planned a $174 million project portfolio for sewer. But as we prioritized regulatory and essential projects during COVID, We made the strategic choice to defer an $89 million WPCF capacity expansion project, which was a significant portion of the CIP. With supply chain challenges mounting, costs rising, and inflation increasing, we found it necessary to reevaluate the 2021-2024 utility rate ordinance, and as you may recall, we did return to council during this 4-year ordinance to incorporate the CIP changes into a rate amendment. Once again, pivoting away from capacity projects to compliance. During this most recent study, the 10-year CIP used in the system development fee calculation dropped to roughly $7 million. Although we have a total of 392 in capital improvements planned for the next 10 years, only $7 million relates to expanding the system and providing additional capacity. As stated earlier, we're focusing our efforts and resources on regulatory projects such as the Port Gardner Storage Facility, which we are required to have complete in 2027 and totals roughly $200 million. So going back to the SDF calculation, the decrease in the 2024 rate is due to the significant decrease in expansion and capacity-related capital projects included in our 10-year CIP plan, as well as our pivot to focus on Port Gardner Storage Facility project. So this base rate is then established for the 2024 fees, and what we do next is phase it in each year a steady increase to get to where we need to be in 2027. So this slide here shows the water, sewer, and surface water fees in comparable cities. The fees for water and sewer are based on a 3/4-inch meter size, which is a standard size for a typical single-family resident, and for surface water, it is based on 1 impervious surface unit, which is about 2,500 square feet. Please note that this is reflecting Everett's proposed 2024 fees and other cities' 2023 fees. So from this chart, we can see that Everett's fees are slightly lower than that of most surrounding cities. So if adopted, the proposed ordinance will take effect on January 1st, 2024, with the annual increases to follow at the beginning of 2025, 26, and 27. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions or comments? Councilmember Vogely?
Thank you for that. I think I ask this question every year, and that is, in some parts of Everett, like where I live, not only do we have 2 school districts, but we have 2 places that we pay water and or sewer. And so I'm curious how this corresponds to, I don't know, the Mukilteo wastewater bill that I'm going to pay as well. And
Yes.
I don't know if you're going to have an answer right now. Looks like Ryan Sass might.
Interesting you should mention that.
Yeah, so obviously we have a boundary with the city of Mukilteo, but we also have a boundary between our water and sewer service area and Mukilteo water and wastewater district service area. And along those boundaries, there are areas in the Everett city limits that are difficult for us to serve due to topography. And so we do have residents who are Everett water customers who currently pay sewage collection to Mukilteo Water and Wastewater District because they're serving them on our behalf, and we have an agreement with them to do that. We have a few the other way as well. I'm not sure if I am quite getting to all your question there, though.
I just have to bring it up every year because I never remember exactly. And when you said topography, I'm now remembering last year why we're doing this. Why it is the way that it is. So thank you for reminding me on that. And I guess it's just they're not changing their rates that you know of?
Yeah, so these fees would only be, it's for mostly developers or current City of Everett residents who are wanting to expand capacity, and so it wouldn't affect your monthly water sewer rates. Hopefully
Very
that
good
answered
point.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Just a quick point, I guess it sounds like the choice of who to serve because of the topography means if we didn't do that, we'd have to do it in a more inefficient way with lift stations and piping and all that, and it actually is better and more efficient and less wasteful of power and all that sort of thing if it simply, we use gravity. Okay, thank you.
Gravity's cheaper.
And more reliable.
Any other questions? Well, I will just say my instinct is not to think against reducing prices at any capacity, particularly coming out of the inflationary cycle that we've just had. But as I understand it, check my understanding, is that because we haven't done a lot of the investments that we thought we were going to do, we are not, but for regulatory reasons, we can't charge people as much to hook up. Is that correct?
Yeah, so as I had mentioned, the only projects we can use in the SDF calculation are capacity and expansion. And because we have these other projects that are regulatory driven, we had shifted our focus more on that. And that's why in the calculation, that CIP in 2018 was for sewer, it was 174 million, and then it dropped to about $2 million, which then decreased that rate.
Okay, and so there's kind of a formulaic way
Yes.
that we are able to approach those hookup fees. So we're following the regulations that we have to
Yes, yeah,
follow.
generally
Even though my instinct is like, we shouldn't ever reduce prices.
I would be happy to continue to overcharge people.
Yeah.
But the cost of service principles, so we use best management practices that we follow and how we allocate those costs really, really demands that we bring that rate down and then slowly bring it back up to be accurate.
Yep, that makes sense to me. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Zarlingo.
You mentioned the switch from capacity enhancement to regulatory-focused projects. I guess the question that brings up is, are you comfortable that since we aren't doing as much of that capacity expansion as soon as we were, are we on a reasonable track to be able to continue to serve people as we do grow? We don't need to be doing more capacity expansion than we have been or plan to, for example.
Yeah, unfortunately, plumbing fixtures, building codes, the drive is towards less consumption of water. And, low flow shower heads, low flow toilets, household size is going down. We just don't sell that much more water.
Okay.
And for where we're at, water conserved is revenue lost.
Yeah.
And we Public Works reviews our CIP every year, and we had discussed if in 2 or 3 years we see these capacity projects falling off or going back on, then we will want to reassess it and then come back to council then if we see a huge shift.
Thank you.
And although we've been on a 4-year cycle, we are not bound by that. That's not a requirement. That's just been our cycle that we've chosen. Is that correct? So if you found that you needed to make an adjustment sooner, you could?
Yes, we could come back with an amending and, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Similar to what we had done with the utility rate ordinance.
Right, okay, great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we will see you back on the 8th.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one last briefing, and that is our bike master plan. And I think yes, we have Tom Hood here this evening, Assistant Director of Public Works. Good evening, Tom, welcome.
Good evening, Council. And thanks for having me tonight to give you a briefing on our Bicycle Master Plan implementation. Okay, so really what I'm going to do tonight is kind of give you a quick background on the Bicycle Master Plan. President Stonecipher, I believe you were the only one on council when it was adopted in 2011. Then the bulk of my presentation will be on the implementation projects that we've done since the adoption. I'll get into a little bit of detail on some of our more current projects that we're doing, some design features and things like that, and then wanted to touch a little bit on our education and outreach efforts as part of the BMP. So that is where we're going. So the Bicycle Master Plan, as I mentioned, it was adopted in 2011. It was a significant effort involving multiple departments, council, administration, quite a number of citizens. Bicycle groups were involved in its development. And really, what it was a document that we could use to encourage a mode shift toward bicycles, through the development of bicycle facilities and other programmatic support to encourage the use of bicycles in Everett. So the BMP has a few key objectives to it. The first one is to create a continuous network of bicycle facilities. Prior to 2011, we had a few bike lanes here and there scattered across the city. Mukilteo Boulevard comes to mind. The interurban trail had been built. But we didn't really have any cohesive network. These were just pieces out there that didn't connect to anything. And so the BMP was really looking to connect facilities to facilities, but also to destinations, parks and schools, the Southwest Industrial Complex, those large employment centers that we want to provide a viable bicycle transportation facility to those locations. And then another objective was to provide some guidelines for designing these facilities. And those design guidelines are really based on the different roadway characteristics that these facilities will be placed on. Obviously, we're going to treat a neighborhood street differently than we would treat an arterial in terms of bike facilities. And then finally, the outreach and education program was another objective of the Bicycle Master Plan, again, to encourage and promote cycling within Everett. So as of 2023, our implementation has been really pretty impressive. You can see the numbers there, 31 lane miles of bikeways in the last 12 years have been completed through 19 projects, with 11 more projects slated to be done by 2026. I also want to point out the bullet point there. This is an SOP really for Public Works. When we do any capital project, whether it's a utilities CIP or a transportation TIP project, including our pavement maintenance overlay projects, we consider implementation of bicycle facilities if it's on an identified network road for the BMP. And if it is feasible and can be made within the scope of the project, we will do that. So this slide, kind of a nifty graphic showing the progress as we've gone from adoption of the BMP through today. I won't read all of these, but I'll just point out a couple of things that we've done. The Milltown Trail on East Marine View Drive and West Marine View Drive, we widened those and made safety improvements to those. We made some safety improvements at some key intersections of the interurban trail. We've installed the first bicycle signal and protected crossing at California Street and Broadway as part of the Broadway Bridge project back in 2015. And then we have also completed that north-south corridor on Hoyt that really connects as far north as Legion Park, south to the interurban trail at 43rd and Colby. And then there in the center of the screen, you'll see our Bicycle Friendly Community Award. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then we come to 2023, where we've had really some great projects that I'll get into a little more detail later. The Madison Street improvements, the Fleming Bicycle Corridor, So we've had some pretty good success over the last few years implementing our plan. So there again is Madison Street and the Fleming corridor with a combined 7 lane miles of bicycle facilities. And then also early next year, we have our citywide wayfinding signage project coming, which will install wayfinding signage for bicycles around the city, covering 28 miles. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit to a couple projects here. We'll start with the Madison Street project. This is a unique, it was a unique opportunity for us in Public Works. Madison Street was slated to be overlaid due to poor pavement condition. It had some very substandard bike lanes that who knows how long they had been there, but they clearly didn't meet any current guidance. The pavement width gave us the opportunity to eliminate the center left turn lane. We were able to do that primarily because there wasn't a huge operational demand for that center turn lane. By removing that, we were able to put in the city's first buffered bike lane system. And I will go to the next slide. And here you can see a good view of the buffered bike lane. That's the cross-hatched area with the candlesticks or flexible delineators in it. You can also see the bike lane is green, which is another first for the city. That's a product called EnduraBlend. It's essentially a polymer cement topping that goes right down over the top of the asphalt and has a very long lifespan, especially when used in bicycle situations. And then you can see there as well, there's the white curbing as you approach the intersection with Evergreen Way. This was an effort to keep right-turning vehicles from crossing into the bike lane when they wanted to make a right turn onto Evergreen.
Kudos. Just got to say it out loud.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
We have a question from Councilmember Ryan.
Great,
Oh.
thank you.
Yes.
Yes, kudos for sure. Every time I see the green, the green paint and the buffers and everything, I have a little bit of excitement. It's great to see. So part of the stretches in my district, and some neighbors had questions about the intersection of Madison and Beverly Boulevard. And so for a person in a vehicle on Madison traveling east, approaching Beverly, there's confusion about how there used to be a right-hand turn lane, and now it's kind of a bike lane, but it's not buffered, but there is enough space for a car, so they have experienced quite a bit of confusion of folks wanting to turn right from the main lane where they should be taking a right, but then there's a car that's in the bike lane because they can, and so it gets confusing for people at that approach to the intersection. So my request or question is if there is plans to also have that buffered bike area on that particular corner of the intersection. 'Cause it seems like the other corners are fine and don't have that confusion, but because there had been a right-hand turn lane there, folks that live in the neighborhood are expecting to be able to keep doing that. So, it makes confusion, and it makes it dangerous for a bicyclist to be in that space and not have the buffer to protect them as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. That is, as we implement some of these treatments, there's obviously going to be a bit of a learning curve, especially when you take away a dedicated right turn lane like we did at that location. I will definitely pass that along to our traffic group and see if there's something we can do with that.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Sorry for a follow-up there. So is it okay for the cars to drive over the bike lane or not? I think that's what people are asking. I've gotten the same questions.
Yes, the treatment changes at the intersection. The solid stripe becomes a dotted line through the intersection. That's where it's okay to drive across the bike lane.
Thanks. Yeah, so I thought, I just wanted to hear it.
And one quick additional bit, I guess that I know that there were some complexities in that because there are a bunch of users there who actually wanted to preserve some parking, especially some of the folks at the Fleet Reserve who are older and not going to be biking in that area, but really did need the close-in parking. And I guess kudos also to the groups for working that out as best you could. And I guess it doesn't surprise me that maybe there are further wrinkles in this because we are learning some of this as we go along. We're weighing human behavior, which is always a little bit of the wild card in this. So thank you for that, and I look forward to hearing more about what we can do in that corner.
Traffic engineering is definitely human behavior driven. Okay, I don't know if I have this video. How do you do that? Did it, maybe we don't have it.
Is it supposed to be a video?
It's embedded, same one I had at council committee.
Oh, there it
Oh.
is.
Thanks, thanks, Jennifer. IT will hire you.
Is there audio?
Oh, nice.
I don't know if there's audio. Wait. Let's try this again. Is it right there? Well, should be.
Yeah, I don't know if the audio's.
I don't know if the audio made it through.
Is it critical?
No.
Okay.
It's captioned, the video is.
Yes. That's...
I can play like a song.
I was gonna say.
Hum in your mind.
That there is the intersection with Commercial Avenue.
You're waving, right?
And that's what
They
you
are
do when you
doing
need
their
to make a
hand
left
signals.
turn.
Oh, there's some sound.
Great, great.
Oh, no, that's Candy's phone.
Okay.
All right, well,
Great.
sorry the music didn't
That's
come
okay.
through this time.
Thank you. Looks
But
great.
kudos to Public Works, Public Information and Education Group and our drone group for putting that video together.
Very nice.
Okay, let's switch gears to the Fleming Bicycle Corridor. This is another great project that provided the connection from the freshly completed Madison project up to Mukilteo Boulevard, and it's actually the first north-south corridor west of Evergreen Way on our bike network that we've done south of 41st Street. So this includes, the photo you're looking at here is another first for Everett, which is the advisory bike lane. This is Elk Hill Drive looking south from Mukilteo Boulevard. If any of you have driven that, it's a fairly steep road, so we went with an advisory lane for the bikes to climb in. Cars going up the hill are required to yield to bikes and to oncoming downhill vehicles as well. So, and again, that's that EnduraBlend polymer cement I was talking about earlier that you see there.
Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you, also in my district. I've heard from neighbors about this stretch as well, that it's confusing for a driver either going up or down the hill because they're confused whether they should be driving in the bike lane and potentially running into a bicyclist or driving into oncoming traffic. So I have traveled it recently. I'm trying to remember if there was signage to help people get that figured out, and if there's a possibility for more signage or more information and education for folks that do travel it. Just
Sure,
to,
sure.
To help with the transition?
I don't know if you traveled it before or after the permanent signs were put in. The signs were recently installed, giving direction both to drivers and to cyclists. We'll continue to monitor that situation, and if more is needed, we'll certainly do that.
I'll add too, it's a pretty dark stretch, so if there's opportunities for lighting to help with visibility, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a photo of College Avenue along the Fleming Bicycle Corridor, further south, showing one of the traffic islands that we installed as part of the project. The concept here is one of traffic calming. We have, as you can see, College Ave is quite a wide swath of asphalt, and these center islands serve to both help delineate the fact that this is a bicycle corridor, but also serves to calm traffic a bit. And so we've installed 3 of those. We originally had 7 planned. We heard from some neighbors, and so we worked with them to reach what we feel is a good compromise to maintain the traffic calming features without negatively impacting the residents.
Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you. So I have a question about this stretch as well. So some of the sharrows are green and some are not. Can you share why some are and why some aren't? And if there's a possibility to have them all be green, because at times it feels like the paint job was just incomplete or whatnot. But I'm not sure if there's like a purpose for I think some of the greens are to indicate that there's a turn ahead. But then, yeah, it just feels like the paint job didn't get finished when I
Yeah,
on that stretch.
I honestly can't answer that completely tonight. I'm just not sure. But what I can tell you is that the plain white sharrows are typically used on lower volume, lower speed applications like this street. The green tends to stand out a little bit more, and we like to use those maybe at intersections like Peck's Drive in Fleming, which was part of this project also, where there's more vehicles, more conflicts going on because it is more of a standout symbol. But I can certainly get back to you on the why not all green question.
Yeah, to me, it seems if we're establishing a route, then having something as bold as the green to have that continuity would be helpful, just to really put a stamp on it.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Vogely.
I've been waiting to ask a Sharrow question, so that's perfect. There are also, and not necessarily on this route, I don't think, but are some Sharrows paired with mechanical or electric notices so that if you, I have no words. I have lots of words that don't make sense.
Tactile warnings, maybe?
So that if a bike goes and needs to turn left, the light will turn left for it, as some motorcycles need, I know. But
Yeah.
there's smaller Sharrows. I don't even know if they're called Sharrows.
Are you referring to bicycle detection?
That is it.
Okay.
Detection.
Sure. Yes, they really don't have anything to do with Sharrows. They really are truly a bicycle signal, either loop in the pavement like cars have, but in the bike lane, or they can be infrared type sensors as well.
Okay.
In fact, I'll be showing you a project here shortly that implements bike detection.
Okay, because I didn't even know that was a thing, until very recently, probably thanks to the TAC, Transportation Advisory Committee.
Well, we appreciate you paying attention in TAC.
That's all, thank you.
Okay, I mentioned the citywide bicycle wayfinding signage project a little bit earlier, but here's an example of one of the wayfinding signs that we'll be putting in. Really, it's just to alert cyclists to various destinations that are popular they may be interested in getting to, along with mileage to those destinations. So again, we'll be doing 28 lane miles of signage installation on existing bikeways around town. And that project is scheduled for construction early next year. So we also have a few projects that are coming up soon, and I'll talk a little bit about each of these three. You have seen the Wall Street Connector, you authorized advertisement and award, and then Fulton and California. So we're going to start with Wall Street. This is a connection between Everett Station and Angel of the Winds Arena. This is another example of a wide swath of asphalt that is underutilized along Smith and along Wall Street. So what we intend to do here is really create a full multimodal facility with sidewalks and ADA improvements, as well as creating a bicycle path. We have the bicycle detection, Councilmember Vogely, that you were talking about, at the signal at Wall and Broadway. And then various textured patterns as well, again with that EnduraBlend type product that I've been talking about. So that project is slated to get started as well here in the next few months.
May I?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Vogel, go ahead.
Does that go under Pacific? Is that where that is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Cool.
runs under the bridge. Okay, so next we have the Fulton Street project. This one's currently in design, and this will provide an important connection between the California Street bicycle corridor, which is in design now as well, and Everett Station. Fulton is a good candidate for this because it is as far as the north-south streets go east of Broadway, it's fairly low volume, fairly low speed through here, so it makes a good candidate for a bicycle corridor. It will include new bikeways, sidewalk, wayfinding, again, a bike signal detection at the signal at Fulton and Pacific. And here is a cross-section of what we're thinking. This is looking north, and that's important because of the treatments that we're showing here. The road slopes down to the south, and so that gives cyclists coming southbound the ability to move at a better rate of speed, more in line with what cars may travel at. And that's why we've chosen the Sharrow treatment for that southbound movement. We don't have the luxury on this corridor of the width we need to get full bike lanes for both directions, as well as sidewalk in there. You can see we have commercial space, and so we need delivery, drop-off, load-unload zones, things like that, that limit the amount of space we can dedicate to bike lanes. So in the downhill direction, we'll use the Sharrow, and then in the uphill direction, we'll have a dedicated 6-foot bike lane, as well as the sidewalk that you see there. And Fulton is coming in late 2024 to construction.
Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you. Are there plans to connect the Wall Street connector with the Fulton Street? I mean, it's like, they're a block away, but there's train tracks and a overpass and all that.
Right.
But is there a possibility?
Well, there's always a possibility. The challenges you mentioned make it very difficult to do that, but there's a lot of factors in play in the future that could affect that. The Sound Transit light rail station, for one, redevelopment possibly of the Lowe's property. There's all kinds of things going on in that area, as well as something that may come out of some of our work with the I-5 US 2 interchange study. for transit and things like that. So, yes, it is possible that that may be in the future at some point.
Is it in the bicycle master plan?
I actually don't know if that segment of Pacific is or not. So. Okay, and then wanted to talk about California Street. This is a big one for us. It's an important east-west corridor for bicycles that will connect US 2's regional trail to downtown. What I've shown here is the segment east of Broadway, which we received full design funding for, and we're essentially at about 95% design completion. We are still seeking construction funding to do this. At the same time, we've also received design funding for California Street west of Broadway, running all the way over to West Marine View Drive. So, excuse me, that funding is not yet obligated, but we have received it, and so we'll be undertaking the west segment in the next few years, getting that designed. My next slide here, I show another cross-section for you. California Street is a great example of a really wide section that has a lot of opportunity. You can see here we will be installing sidewalks of generous width on both sides of the street. We'll have our 2 drive lanes. And then another first for the city of Everett is what's known as a cycle track. You may have heard of it, but essentially it's a 2-way wide bike lane, bidirectional, and you can see that there on the left. It's also elevated from the travel lanes and has a 6.5-foot buffer separating the travel lanes from the cycle track. So there's a lot of opportunity here to get a lot of non-motorized facilities in the cross-section.
Councilmember Ryan.
Is this becoming a habit?
Maybe. I was just a comment that the 6.5-foot buffer looks like a great spot for a lot of trees.
I'm going to leave that one alone based on discussions with parks.
Yeah, it could be in the census tract that we're adding trees to.
Good.
The buffer space will be there for future use.
Great. Good.
Okay, so changing gears a little bit to the education and outreach efforts, I definitely wanted to mention a few of those because they are really just frankly quite good. The first one is our bicycle-friendly driver program. This is on the city's webpage, everettwa.gov/bikes. That's where you can find all of this bicycle master plan information. You can also, if you don't want to click that button, you can work your way through the Public Works website, through transportation engineering and bicycles, and find it all that way as well. But the bicycle-friendly driver program is a series of videos, both for cyclists and for drivers, that talks about sharing the road, responsibilities of drivers, but also responsibility of cyclists as equivalent users of our transportation system. They're very professionally done, and I recommend you take a look at them. Also on the bicycle page, we have interactive bike tours. These are really fantastic. These are also very professional videos. They are interactive, and they provide great ways to tour around the city by bicycle, seeing some of the great landmarks that we have in our city. And you can see the 6 self-guided tours available on that. Definitely suggest you check those out as well. So earlier you saw the Bicycle Friendly Community Award. This is something that the city applied for and was awarded in 2021. by the League of American Bicyclists. We were awarded the bronze designation. As you can see there aren't that many communities that qualify for this award based on our commitment to bicycling. And so we were really pleased to be awarded that first level designation. The great thing about this award is it also gives us a roadmap to reach the next level, silver, and then eventually gold. So we will continue pursuing the implementation of our bike master plan and building out our bike network. And with that, I'm happy to take any further questions you might have.
Any last questions? Councilmember Vogely.
It's just a comment, and I think that we should go for the platinum that doesn't exist yet, but for the bicycle awards. So just putting that out there.
I'll make that suggestion.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you. And I also wanted to give kudos to Christina from staff with her outreach efforts. She's been at a number of the neighborhood meetings that I've been to, and she's been very patient with people and their questions. And she's been just a wealth of information and really helpful to explain the process and what's coming down the pike. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Christina. One of the slides mentioned that there's 11 more projects to be completed by 2026. I know that we went over a few today, but I was hoping to get a list of those 11 just for my situational awareness and whatnot.
Yeah, certainly we can do that. And thank you for mentioning Christina. I meant to mention her as well. She's been a great advocate for the bicycle network and BMP. So
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just going back to the detection. So yes, one. When there is a not very small, when there's like a 2.5 foot by 1 foot, I'm just guessing, bicyclist picture on the roadway at a left turn lane, is that a detection device-ish?
not necessarily.
Okay, let's hear it.
When you see that, it's a funny little symbol, has a little helmet. It doesn't look anything like our regular Sharrows. It's just and it's small. Usually what that is we have vehicle detection there, and that's the most sensitive spot. So when you have vehicle detection, the trick is that you want to detect everybody, but you don't want to detect the cars in the next lane, so it's an adjustment thing. And that's the most sensitive place you can be on a bike, so that detection will pick you up and give you the signal.
Thank you. That is all.
Thank you. And with that, we come to the end of our regular agenda. We are going to move into executive session, which is expected to last 10 minutes, and we are anticipating no action to follow that. Council has returned from its executive session, and with no announcement and no further business, we are adjourned.